GVN presents Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. Today's binge:
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
All right, so welcome once again to another edition of Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. I'm Martin.
And I'm Kathy.
And we have reached the halfway point of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Episode 6, Adapt or Die. And we still have the same question we've had since the very beginning, which is, where's Fitz? And needless to say, our public service announcement didn't do anything because we still don't know where Fitz is.
Although, and that was a good public service announcement.
I gotta say.
Oh yeah, because I made it.
You're right.
But anyways, it was a good one.
But if I said, I recently saw an interview with Joel Stouffer, who plays Enoch, and they asked him, when does Ian finally show up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he said that they would kill him if he ever admitted exactly when he shows up, which I tend to believe that means that he actually is going to show up.
They said if.
Why?
There's an if.
Well, no, that was just the way I phrased it. It may not have been an if.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, we're at the halfway point. We haven't seen him yet. So,
well, at least we know he's alive and he's probably taking care of their baby, but we're not going to hear about that for right now.
Well, we don't even know that's true.
Well, I do. I just feel it. They've had plenty of time. They had plenty of time to have a baby and everything while they were waiting to go get everybody in the future, and that's all there is to it. So that's my take on it. And it looks like once we're done here, we're gonna be. Some people are going to be stuck in 1982 and some others won't be. But let's get on with this program. Okay. I want to talk now.
Yes, dear. Okay, so just like every episode, we start out with giving my lovely wife a chance to talk about whatever she wants to talk about. And apparently she's chomping at the bit. So the floor is yours, my dear.
Why, thank you, darling. And let me just tell you that this is what I want to talk about today, because we've been in here for now.
Don't exaggerate.
15 minutes.
Okay, that's probably fair.
Setting up the camera.
And why are we doing that? Because we don't do it the same way every time.
That's true.
Because we're kind of experimenting, trying to find out what works best for us.
Well, because I'm not looking at the camera a lot. I'm doing a lot of this ADHD moves where I'm looking up and down and around.
Well, I mean,
and a lot of down, and
I doubt you'll find anyone who's looking 24/7 at the camera.
But I should be at least addressing the audience.
So, and of course, the other problem that we have is every time we say, okay, we're going to get ready to record our podcast, that is open invitation for anybody and everybody to ring our doorbell, decide they want to come by and visit. Right?
That's true. Happens. And even though we are social distancing, there's about a half a dozen people that come to this house regularly because that is all they do. They are either at their own homes by themselves or they're here with us. And some of those people, are caretakers, and some of those people are my daughter, who is also a caretaker for my son. So those people are here.
And of course, she brings her, our grandson, and I swear that's all we have to do is even mention that we might be recording this podcast.
And the doorbell rings.
And even if we were waiting until, it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, and everything, they're not coming, we're going to go ahead and do this. Ding dong. They get the door.
Which we don't care because we love them with all our heart.
But I swear.
It seems like it's every single time. And we're trying to get this thing done, and instead of, while we're, we are certainly waiting because we know anytime they're going to get there. And then, 3 hours later, nobody shows up. Now, you would say in this time and day where communication is at a premium, why not just text them, call them, find out where they are? Are they coming over? Are they not?
Well, even yesterday, they kind of made it sound like they weren't, and then suddenly next thing you know, there they are.
Right. So there you go. Anyway.
But and then it's all good.
But it doesn't matter because then they're here, and then I like them being here.
The only thing we're consistent about for someone to show up at our house when the doorbell rings is for wherever we park out in a parking lot at a store, the person's going to be coming, and the car right next to us coming.
The person next to us, either someone parks right next to us, or somebody's coming out from the store that is right next to us.
Okay. It's a 99% chance that whenever we go back out to the car, the person in the car next to us is at their car.
Yep, that's a fact.
Oh.
Anyway, so that's that. There we did it. I'm telling y'all the thrice daily swill that you don't care about.
Which pretty much encompasses most of it.
All right, so now let's get down
okay,
to
so you
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, so
now, so first of all, the name of the episode is
Adapt or Die.
Adapt or Die. That's right. So
who's who there? Who adapts?
Well,
I say everybody adapts.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that the Chronocoms are adapting. They're adapting to things they're learning as we travel through time. So the episode starts out with the world famed Sybil the Predictor.
Right.
And basically Luke, the main Chronocom or the main hunter Chronocom, is basically grousing that, hey, all these great plans that you've laid out for us so far ain't working. I don't think you know what you're doing. And of course she tells him that no, he said we wanted them to reveal Zephyr to reveal where it's at. It did. Nathaniel Malik has taken Daisy and Sousa, and Coulson and May are being held at the base, so they're all divided. So we're right on schedule.
Right.
So we're gonna go ahead and start the next phase of our plan, which is to activate more Chronocoms, more hunter Chronocoms. In the meantime, of course, now Max already launched his missiles and destroyed the InSight satellite, and he knows he's given away their position, but at least at that moment, nothing's happened. So everything's good. But all Mac is thinking about is my parents are on the base. I gotta go save my parents. Right. Of course, he's mad at Deke when Deke and Yo-Yo arrives for killing Malik, because he said, I didn't tell you to kill him, I told you to bring him back. And of course, Deke is trying to explain, hey, he was causing more ripples.
Right.
So they said, well, I ain't got time for that because I want to go save my parents.
Right.
So Yo-Yo says, well, then I'm going to go ahead and go along with you. And there's not going to be any argument about that.
Right.
So they're going to go save his parents. They want Deke and them to try to find Daisy and Sousa. And of course, they're still waiting for the response that they're pretty much assuming they're going to get from the Chronocoms for revealing their location, which ends up happening. So of course, once Mac decided to not flood the base, May and Coulson got captured.
Right.
So they bring him into Stoner to talk to him, and he's that's why he had a stake on his eye where May socked him. Of course, he was disappointed. He said, because this was going to be my celebratory stake, and instead of using it for an ice pack. And of course, they're trying to locate who shot down the ship. Shot down the satellite, the InSight satellite. But the system's kind of going off on its own.
Right.
And it's locked in on Zephyr 1. But the Stoner is sitting there telling them, okay, don't fire until I'm telling you to. But they're saying it's doing it by itself. We're not controlling it. And Coulson telling them, said, the Chronocoms have taken over your computer system. And of course, I thought it was funny where Stoner tells him that, he said, I didn't bring you here for you to speak. He said, well, and I'm thinking, well, you didn't bring me here at all. Those guys did. So anyway, so they're trying to convince, said, you didn't really want that satellite to launch anyway. But it doesn't matter. Of course, then the base launches its missiles.
Right.
Enoch does the best he can to avoid him, launching countermeasures to try to avoid from getting hit, but he gets hit by one.
Right.
And of course now,
I don't know what's wrong with me. I keep yawning. You're not boring me. I think it's because it must be the 4.5 minutes of sleep I got last night.
Okay, so at this point, why do you think Stoner would even believe what May and Coulson are telling him, considering that she sucked him? And apparently they were saboteurs, since they had a whole bag of explosives on them.
All this stuff there's already things have happened.
Which was actually, to me, is another thing. Did they take the explosives they planted back off? How many explosives do they have? Apparently they had more than they needed, because he still had a whole bag full.
It doesn't even matter, because...
So anyway, so he thought they were saboteurs because they're carrying a bag of explosives. And of course, he's sitting there telling her, so you're, I forget the name that she gave him. But he said, but you're not her. I said, no, I'm Melinda.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She said she was, her name was, hell. Why did you say that? I could have told you what it was, because it was kind of funny. Her name was,
Chastity.
Yeah. Chastity McBride.
Right, Chastity McBride. Thank you. So anyway, he said, and
So
of
I
course,
guess your name's not
Chastity, and Coulson's going, well, I think the explosives would have let him know that we're not who we say we are. So
It was a bag of explosives.
and of course, like I said, when they're trying to convince Stoner that, killer robots from outer space are attacking the base, it sounds a little ludicrous even coming out of their mouths.
Yeah, sure.
But they ask him, say, hey, let us help you. We're here to help you. And he says, no, have you guys recently just visited Wilfred Ballock? I said, yeah, but of course he's Hydra. So, well, he's dead, so I think you're going to be staying right here. So, okay. So while he's talking to him, another female agent comes in.
Right.
And she gives Stoner a message.
Right.
But she comes in and sits there and tells Coulson and May that this was my very first assignment, and you guys sure did make a mess of it. So she goes behind them and touches them both on the shoulders. I hope you enjoy your time in jail. And of course, Stoner said, "Hey, try to be professional here." But of course, the minute she touches May
said, I'm getting nothing from you, babe.
Right. Which is, again, I think we'll discuss it a bit when we get back with.
It's very convenient that she has this strength.
Right.
She has this thing because now she can tell who the Chronicon.
Right. She's basically become a Chronicon smoke alarm.
Yeah.
Right?
or
and of course,
or detector.
Right. And the main reason it works is because these dummies keep touching her.
Right.
If they would not touch her, she wouldn't know. Yeah. But again, so she touched May, and May, of course, realized what she was. So then when they tell Stoner that we need you downstairs in the basement because we found a way to override the system, but we need you to do it. Mm-hmm. So he goes with them, and May and Coulson are sitting there talking, and May says that, hey, that agent, a Chronicon. And of course, then they get into a discussion about May and her lack of feelings, and Coulson's used to I guess even the Chronicon Coulson is used to the old May. Said, you may not have feelings, but usually you at least tell me what you're thinking.
Right.
And you're not even doing that. And of course,
she was then happy to oblige him.
Right, which is I thought was interesting. So she basically, without because she can't get any feelings off of him, she's basically expressing her own feelings, which is, you have died numerous times, and I have mourned you each time. I'm done. I'm not mourning you anymore.
All right.
And of course, I'm certainly not mourning whatever you are now.
Right.
And of course he says, well, thank you. At least you're giving me something.
Right.
And he said, or are you just imitating what I'm doing? And then he's sitting there thinking and said, I think that's what the Chronicons are doing. They said when they talked to me on the train, they said they adapt. They're realizing that to integrate more with the humans and to fool them, they need to act more like the humans.
Correct.
So obviously, what if they're taking humans and basically passing along their personalities into a Chronicon and taking over that way?
Right.
And he said, yeah, sounds like, and their next target is Stoner because they just took him downstairs. So of course then Coulson snaps his cuffs off like they're nothing and takes Maze off so they know where to go.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into something we discussed because we rewatched the episode before we started the podcast. As far as you all right over there?
I'm sorry. I'm not bored with this. I am just apparently don't have any oxygen.
Okay, George. So they had taken one of Stoner's agents and took him down there and stole took his face like they have it. But we're assuming that they didn't put him into the machine. They just took his face and did their normal erasure format for him. Right. But Stoner, they were going to go the full route and transfer the whole personality, everything. So why do you think, what would be the difference for using just the minimal amount of work for one guy and then going the full route on the other?
Well, I'm assuming that they did that just for the look of it anyway, so that he thought people that he recognized were down there doing something and it was safe for him to walk in there. That's the only option I can see. And then of course, but it was annoying to me because here you're transferring personalities and stuff in some people, but yet not in others. And
well, like I said,
how long? And I gotta reboot this thing. Sorry.
So what's the problem?
I got two problems. I know Mac's parents died, but I didn't think they died when they were very young. At the time that they have taken his parents, they would have been probably 4 and 6 or 6 and 10.
And are we talking
or
about the children, not
yes,
the parents?
I'm talking
right?
about I'm talking about Mac and his brother.
Right.
And my assumption was that his parents died later in life because they left the house to the brother.
Right, which is the first time we really heard about him, is when he went to go visit his brother, and he was behind the mortgage on his parents'
Correct.
house.
Which
okay, say so, and that's because they didn't designate exactly when Mac's parents passed away.
No, but
it had been a little bit of, I guess, a time for him to fall behind for the brother to fall behind on the mortgage.
Well, that could take 6 months. It could take 2 years. It all depends on the mortgage company and how it works. But here's the thing.
But they certainly didn't die as young as they did in this time.
No, and that's my question. If he took his skin, when did he take his skin? When the kids were little? Were these chromacons when they were little? Or is this just a whole nother timeline that jumped on top of it? And how did that happen?
Yeah, I'm assuming this, these were kind of off on one of these alternative branches things for this.
So I'm guessing that.
But see, and that whole thing makes me wonder, as far as how Mac felt about it. He already knew his parents were dead, at least in his original timeline. But
they were dead of whatever
caused
happened,
right?
and obviously it was further out than being 6 years old or 10 years
much further out. So maybe it's because, and I don't even know if Mac was around when his parents originally passed away. If he was out, doing SHIELD stuff, but apparently this touched him more because he was there. Even though they aren't really,
pushed him out of a
I know,
plane.
But they weren't really his parents. But he did know that.
But still, that's kind of like killing him in a way. And you almost kind of got to get your thoughts together.
And you almost think that's kind of the way he took it, because he kind of missed it up when he shoved his mother out the hatch.
Even though he's a big on robots and LMDs and crap. So
yeah, I say. Well,
I don't know.
Okay, so in the meantime, as last episode we said that Gemma was struggling a bit with her memory, and it had something to do with what you called like the predator lights in the back of her neck. So we found out some more information about what had happened there.
Right.
And of course, this was right after the missile had hit the Zephyr. And
they had to repair
because the shielding had collapsed.
Right.
And the shielding is what protected the ship when it made its jumps.
Mm-hmm.
So she needed to fix it, but she couldn't remember how to do it. And of course, she told Enoch, and Enoch told her, said, "Don't worry." He said, "We're going to go take care of you." So he took her off. So he's starting to work on her, and Deke shows up and sees what he can tell is Enoch's planting some kind of a thing in her head.
Right.
So he sneaks behind him, heats up the defibrillator pads, and electrocutes Enoch.
Right.
And of course, then he wakes Gemma up and says, "Hey, Enoch's a traitor. We need."
Right.
And she's looking around and sees Enoch on the ground. So, what'd you do?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, what we come to find out is that implant in Gemma's neck is basically something she designed.
Right.
Okay. And what did she call it?
Diana.
And what did she say about Diana?
That they were inseparable. That she was adorable and they were inseparable.
Right. Because when I first heard that, when we first watched the episode, and I apparently wasn't paying attention, I almost thought she was talking about her daughter, which she obviously wasn't. She was talking about the implant, but she named it Diana. And of course, she said Diana is acting up.
Right. And yes.
But Enoch got to work on her a little bit before he got electrocuted. And of course, now Deke is asking her, okay, so what the heck's going on? If he wasn't doing that, so I need you to give me some answers, because all I saw was Creepy Town USA starring you and him. So I want some answers. So she tells him about Diana. He says that he was fixing it, but we need to get this Zephyr fixed. So basically, he's going to help her fix the Zephyr. So they go ahead and get that done. And that brings up something that I can't remember if we talked about this or not. Do you think that that implant in the back of her neck is connecting her somehow to Fitz?
I feel like it's not, because what it's doing is it's allowing her to forget things
Right. It's suppressing
that are important to
right.
her,
It's
and try to remember things like how to fix the Zephyr, which I think maybe part of that implant could be just a knowledge.
Well, that's why I wondered if he was linking to Fitz, because normally doing those kinds of repairs would have been Fitz's gig.
Well, true, and then you got to remember, Deke is a product of Fitz,
right? Which is why he helped her get the repair done.
Right.
But I was just curious, because she seemed to have a lot of engineering knowledge now that she probably didn't before. Just curious if it was some.
I'm sure that there's some of that, and it could have been Ada-like information. In other words, here's almost like a small hard drive that's embedded in that Diana thing that maybe.
So we just input all that information so you have it. So when you need it, you can access it. Which is also a very good possibility.
Right.
Okay. So anyway,
and I'm sure that Fitz designed it. Between the two of them, they designed it.
Right, because I know it's a biotech implant, so she had, she designed it, but I'm sure he probably had something to do with the mechanical part.
Yeah,
right.
with the information that.
And saying it's kind of funny because like when they scan it from the side, it looks really small, but when they showed it, it looks really big. But it's obviously not, because when they show it from the side scan of her neck, it's a tiny little thing.
Right.
But when they looked at it up close, it looked like this big.
Well, that's what happens when you're doing when you're
intricate
drawing,
work, right.
And you blow your thing up really big so that you can. Same thing.
Okay, so thank you. Okay, so anyway, so they repair the Zephyr, and then Enoch comes to, and Enoch finishes repairing the implant. So Gemma, while she's getting rid of Gemma, let's try it again. Deke is standing there, and Gemma kind of clears her throat.
Right, because she's like, you need to give Enoch an apology because you knocked him out.
Right, and he actually was reluctant to do it.
Well, I think he was like, I didn't know when the perfect timing was. Thanks for mentioning it.
And basically,
like you have to do with every child.
Right, and I assume that she's the one who made him tell him that you're an important part of our family.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I was like,
he is.
Right, so it was kind of like talking to Uncle Enoch. So he apologized for doing that. So
on they went.
Right, so now the Zephyr is back fixed. So as we said, Mac and Yo-Yo are going to rescue his parents. So they basically do the old-fashioned breakout where they cut a giant hole into the cell, and of course they come in there, and first thing Mac does is hugs his mother, which of course is who is this really large person?
Get off of me.
Right, and of course, and that's what her husband is saying. Hey, dude, what are you doing? So he said, I apologize, ma'am, sir. And of course, then the next thing he does is it introduces them to Yo-Yo and says, it's my girlfriend. And she's sitting there thinking, well, these strangers don't need to know that director Mac
Lamore.
Right. Because I guess he keeps forgetting that they don't know who he is, and he's not supposed to know who they are theoretically.
Well, and here, whatever. So that's,
and of course, they're confused about why they're even were captured anyway. So we're not anybody. And I thought it was kind of cute. He says, "No, you're not nobody. You're important." So he tells them, just if you just do what I say, we'll get you home. Right. Okay, so he's leading them through the place, and they run into a dead end. And of course, now the dad's getting a little upset. You're supposed to be taking us to safety.
Yeah, you're trying to help us.
Right, but now you've got
helping
right,
us.
and of course now all Max sees is I'm trying to help him, and he's testing me.
Right.
So, but he falls back on what basically what he knows of his dad, which his dad had a love of cars,
and he was mechanically inclined.
Right. So he tells his dad, said, "Hey, these door locks are much like the brake calipers on a car. So they clamp the door, and so if you trigger them loose, they will let go of the door, and the door will open."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, we can't." And I thought it was interesting because he said, "Well, we can't mess with the rotors." Again, going to the automotive section. So, but if we find the hydraulic line, we can probably cut that. So Max said, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that." So kind of gets him on board with that. In the meantime, as they're trying to get it open, Mac hears the chronocoms coming. So he tells Daisy and them to keep working on the door, but right before that happens, his father, who's got his arm up into the mechanism, gets hurt. He doesn't know how bad, but his dad tells him it's nothing.
Right.
He just, pass it off. So he says, "Okay, then you guys stay here, keep working on the door. I'm going to go out and deal with the chronocom, so they can't get anywhere near you. So in the meantime, of course, Nathaniel had captured Daisy and Sousa. And as we said last time, Nathaniel was basically just wanting to recreate Daniel Whitehall's work.
Right.
I'm still not sure exactly why Nathaniel has got it's only a bug up his rear that he wants powers. And it was basically what, unlike Whitehall, who was just wanting to extend his life, Nathaniel's wanting the powers that she's got.
Well, I feel like Nathaniel saw what she could do.
Yes, he did. Right.
And now he's like, yeah, I'll take that.
I mean, is that your immediate thought when you see someone who does that? Said, I want what they got.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what I think. When I see, every time I see any of these powers, I'm going, I could use that.
So of course, and
especially them quaking powers.
Right.
I
so
like that.
So he knew Daisy had powers, and he's thinking Sousa has powers mainly because he hasn't aged, really.
Yeah.
But he's mistaken because he doesn't realize.
Daisy's going, yeah, that's not what you think it is.
Right, but he thinks he must be an inhuman as well.
Right.
So his plan is also to get whatever Sousa has as well.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Around what year was it that Whitehall supposedly took Jiayang's, cut her up into pieces?
I am not sure what the year was. I know that, of course,
Of course, right now they're in 1976.
Right.
Daisy had to have been born after 76.
Yes. Apparently, Mac was alive before 76, but Daisy was younger, of course. So.
Right. So she would have had to have been born after 76. And how is it that, this part of the timeline, I don't know if it's kind of confusing me a little bit. And I realized that we had, and just like what's her name was saying, Sybil was saying that there, all those timelines, there was many of them.
And that's another thing actually that, and we're going to get to with Sybil, but we'll kind of mention it here now, is that, Sybil doesn't predict the future. She actually looks at the past and says that she sees the different ways that you can arrive at the same.
That's because she's in the future. She's already ahead.
Is she in the future?
Not. Yes, of course she's in the future. She is the future. She is where they are. That's why she can predict what's going on. She already knows what happened, and she's manipulating. I think she's manipulating the past.
See, the way I understood it, and
maybe. Well, I'm probably wrong now.
The fact that she's in the future, I don't doubt that, because she's, basically it's just kind of like a digital thing, so she can be where she wants there. But the way she explained it like, I read the time waves from the past and see the different ways that you can reach the same future.
Right.
So by just adjusting this and adjusting that, you can still get there, but a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And in their case, what they want to do is skip S.H.I.E.L.D. so that they can take over the Earth.
Right.
But we'll get back to Sybil, because Sybil, I thought that whole conversation between her and Coulson was really interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the best parts of it. But getting back to Daisy and Sousa with Nathaniel.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, he wants to get her powers. So he takes her to his laboratory, which is apparently just in the next room, and basically takes some blood samples from her, takes some spinal fluid samples from her. Now, I didn't understand if he was saying that he actually took some glands from her, or took liquid from her glands.
No, it said he took tissue. He
took actual tissue.
I thought he did.
The reason I said it, because he said that if this, he was going to take this, what he got, process it and inject it and give it to himself. Right. He said, if this doesn't work, then we're going to go from needles to knives.
Right.
Well, to take a gland out, you would have had to use a knife. You couldn't take it out with a needle.
No.
But you might be able to get whatever substance is in the gland out of it.
Maybe so.
Whatever. So, I mean, not that it really matters. I mean, the fact of the matter is, he extracted some of the stuff from her, and apparently he extracted the right stuff from her because he gets her powers.
Right. So
anyway, so they bring her back to Sousa, who's sitting there, and Daisy is saying that this has happened before. And of course, we knew this happened with Jiayang, her mother.
Right.
Now, again, exactly if that's what actually transpired in this particular timeline, we don't know. We just know that she's going by what she knew.
Well, we know that Whitehall's in jail.
Well, so he was originally in jail. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right, because that's where he called him from. So he was in jail from the original imprisonment from World War II.
And again,
there's so many open holes here.
Yeah, and we don't know, is Whitehall young in prison?
Because he's
already done this other thing.
Right, because he started out, not young. I mean, he started out.
But Jiang had Daisy before this terrible thing happened. She had already given birth to Daisy before Whitehall had destroyed her.
Right. But she had been living a lot longer before then.
Yeah, like she was already like 1,000 years old, I think.
So anyway, okay, so
or 100. So
Sousa is trying to keep her awake, from this whole thing. So she had asked before, when they first woke up, and they were talking about how the drugs were making them feel. He said he hadn't felt that way since he had gotten injured in World War II. So
and she said, "Let me tell me that story when I'm awake."
Right, and when I can remember it.
Right.
So, in trying to keep her awake, he puts her head on his lap and he tells her the story of how he got injured and how a soldier ended up taking him back and kept talking to him to keep him awake, telling him how they were going to go home. So he said, "So I'm going to pass this on to you. I'm going to keep you awake. You are going home." So he said, "But you need to fight." So when he says that, she holds up her hand, and right before they brought her back, we had heard a piece of glass break. And Nathaniel was telling him, "Hey, be careful with her. So you're not taking out some drunk." But come to find out, whatever that piece of glass was, she had it in her hand. So Sousa pulls it out. It's a pretty good sized piece of glass. So he said, "Well, you got plenty of fight left in you."
Mm-hmm.
So he takes the glass. So then when Nathaniel's henchman comes to get Sousa, he takes the glass and I'm assuming he kills him. I mean, but
he certainly knocked him out.
Right, he certainly took him out. So but he got the keys to the cuffs, so he unlocks his cuffs, unlocks Daisy, and starts to carry her out. When the room starts to shake, and he's first thinking, is just asking Daisy, "Is this you?"
Right.
And it was Nathaniel, but Nathaniel has the same problem that Daisy had
in the beginning.
Right, which is she can't control the power.
And it's crushing my
bones.
bones.
And it's making his bones crack. And of course, then he also brings down the roof on top of it.
Right.
Now, as we had said when we just last watched this, that didn't look like a fatal blow.
I feel like he will be returning at some time.
It wouldn't surprise me. If he didn't show up, I wouldn't be surprised. If he does show up, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, but basically he carries her out of there because he's down. So that's pretty much what I'm with Sousa and Daisy.
Right.
In the meantime, of course, we know that Stoner got taken down to the basement, and they plan to
take his face off and transfer his memories to a LMD looking chronocom.
Right. So, but before they got a chance to do that, there was May and Coulson, and they stop him. Coulson pulls the power from the thing. Stoner immediately sets up and tells him, "I believe you now."
Right. And
of course, he really believes him when he sees the bodies of his agents with their faces gone.
Right.
So Daisy, right again. May tells Coulson, that Mac is in here because Mac's going to come to get his parents.
Right.
He said, "Okay, well, good. Why don't you and Stoner go meet up with him?"
Right.
So what are you going to do? Well, they keep talking about how the chronocons are going to be coming up. Well, there's a ladder down. I'm going to go see where they're coming from. So he goes down the ladder. Coulson goes down the ladder. Okay, so Coulson goes down the ladder where they're coming up from. So when he does that, he goes into a chamber, and there's a whole bunch of chronocom hunters laying in stasis.
Right.
And there's also a big control panel on the front that looks like something you'd stick your hands in. So that's what he does. When he sticks his hands in, he ends up where Sybil's at.
Right.
Which is just a big white room.
Very similar to where Fitz and Simmons were when they were in their mines, when they got chronocons were trying to find out
how to time travel. Travel. Okay, so it's just Coulson and Sybil. And Coulson, asks where he's at, and asks her, and she's basically answering every question he's got for her. And he sits there and tells her, he says, "So I noticed that you're not holding back answering any question I had. She goes, well, I don't see any reason not to. It's okay. So basically, it comes down to, he asks him, so why should you guys get the Earth? Coulson's asking Sybil, so why should you guys get the Earth instead of us, instead of humans? Which I think is funny that he still considers himself human, even though he's not. But that's how he qualifies himself. And she goes, mainly it's because, unlike humans, we will not die. Said, and eventually we will get the Earth anyway because you guys are gonna you're gonna run out of time, basically. Right. And he said, well, number one, you're mistaken, because even though we will die, we have commitment.
He said there's 3 factors that you're not considering.
Right, said we have commitment. We will put in the effort to do it, and we're not going to stop.
Right.
And again, he put himself into this category.
Right.
He says, and you're also wrong about another thing, and that is, I stopped being afraid of dying a long time ago. He's had plenty of experience at it. He's died 3 times. He said, and dying is kind of my superpower. So right when he tells her that, so okay, let's back up the truck for a minute.
Yeah.
Because we had this discussion again. She said the reason they wanted Earth was to maintain their species.
Right.
Because she was, now to me that would mean you're afraid that your species is going to cease to exist. Isn't that being like afraid of dying?
And as I pointed out, it's the existence of the species, not necessarily and they would not have had an issue had the strike not destroyed their planet.
Right. And again, and we discussed this last time, and I think we discussed it a couple of times. So why not?
I'm assuming there is a minute form of organic matter that comprises them. I'm going to say that has to be something to it.
As far as the chronocoms go.
Yeah, because I don't know. I just feel like there's some kind of, because in a way Enoch kind of has free will a little bit.
Enoch, and
yes, he's a little different.
Yeah, he's still, and they will sit there and tell you that he's different. Of course, they think he's different because he's basically sided with the humans against his own people with us.
Well,
and like I said,
there's that.
Right, and of course, to me, Enoch's different. And again, I don't know if he's mimicking human emotion, but he shows them. Like I said, sort of like when they decommissioned him, looked like human self-pity to me.
Yeah.
When he started saying that the name Enoch is going to be a cautionary tale for children.
Right.
And the foul stench of those are great stuff.
Oh my God.
But
when how about when him and Fitz were at the when him and Fitz were on Kitson, and they're in the gambling thing, and that. Oh, like what was me?
Yes,
that's great.
I say, yeah, he got human self-pity down really good. So anyway, and again, I'm not sure why they just didn't follow their original plan, was we go back in time and stop the Shrike from destroying your planet, instead of deciding that no, the only option we want is to take the Earth. So anyway, so Coulson talks to her and basically says the dying is his superpower. He comes back to the control panel, and remembering what May had told him, that said, you never die. Said, you always come back.
Right.
So he gets on the radio and tells May, say, hey, I found their ship. I hope you're right about this other thing. So he sets the explosives down and just blows up their ship along with him in it. Just takes them all out. And it reminded me of the line that Glenn Talbot had told him and said, you died more than any man I've ever known.
Exactly.
So once again, he did it again.
So he's dead again.
Okay.
Well, whatever he is.
Right.
He's not existing at the moment.
Right. So, but he's going to come back in one form or another, apparently.
Right. Well, we did see a little bit of a preview, and he does look like Max Headroom in the next episode. But anyway, but that's the only thing, because they don't have enough of the. I don't think they have enough of the technology quite yet to make another.
Right. I mean, they could easily.
Over there, okay, I just had some thoughts, so let's not go there, because I want to see the next episode, because now I have a thought. Okay, so he's not there.
But yet his memory of everything transpired to that point is.
Yeah, and how did they get that though? Well, Deke, we got Deke in the picture,
right, well,
so he's kind of smart that way.
as you
All right,
say,
let's go.
that'll probably get answered in this next episode.
Well, and no, you stop. Okay.
It's too easy to get off on a tangent.
Yeah,
as we all know.
So let's.
Okay, so in the meantime, Mac is taking on the Chronicoms,
Right.
And he's holding his own pretty well,
Sure.
At least until the Luke, the head Chronicom, gets a hold of him again and draws his weapon. Right. He draws his weapon, and then Stoner and May show up, and Stoner shoots him.
Right.
Puts him down. So they
and
basically
we're talking about Luke, not Mac. Go ahead.
Right. Right. Well, they might have shot Mac too if they. No.
No.
Okay. So anyway, so they shoot Luke down, and they say, "Okay, we're going to go head to the Quinjet." Mm-hmm. May stops long enough to thank Stoner for helping her, and shakes his hand. And for the second time now, she kind of reacts kind of weird every time she shakes his hand. So what do you think's up with that?
Sexual energy.
Right. It's almost what I get the feeling I got. It's like this.
Healing.
So he's putting off a vibe that.
Hey, they're getting ready to go into the 80s.
Well, I know one thing's for certain, that it's not because she thinks he's a Chronicom, because she would have done something about that had it been the case.
For sure.
But yeah, it's some kind of like I said, we call it sexual energy, but it's something that makes her think twice whenever she's shaking his hand. And of course, so now.
And she kind of wanted to shake it off. Like, no thanks.
Okay, so in the meantime, so they're going back to the Quinjet, and they all get on the Quinjet, and when May comes in, they say, "Hey, what happened? Where's Coulson at?" And then she says, "He's gone." And they go, "What, was he in that explosion?" He said, "Yeah, but he'll be back. He always does." So they take off on the Quinjet. Right. Now, in the meantime, Max is talking to his dad and showing him the engine, talking about the engines on the Quinjet. And when Mac turns around to go, the father leans over and tells May, "Thank you for coming to save us," and touches her shoulder. These guys don't learn.
The end.
Right. So, of course, May.
Well, see, they don't know this, and May really needs to make that a secret.
Well, that's where what happened to Miss Predictor, Sybil? Doesn't she realize what's going on there?
I don't think so.
Apparently not, because they keep touching her. And, of course, May realizes that, oops, Mac's dad's a Chronicom. So she puts the plane in autopilot and puts it in a holding pattern. So then she gets Mac to the side, and Mac wants to know, so, "Hey, how come we're circled?" Said, "Because we can't take them back to the Zephyr." Said, "Well, why?" "Because when he touched me, I didn't do anything. He's a Chronicom." And of course, Mac doesn't want to believe it. I said, "No, that can't be. We got to him in time. There's no way that happened." She said, "Well, you said he hurt his arm. Check his arm." He said, "If he's a Chronicom, you'll know." Right. So Mac doesn't want to do it, but he kind of need to. So he asks his dad, say, "Can I see your arm?"
He says, "Just a scratch."
I said, "I know, but we need to, make sure May knows that you're good. So can I look at your arm?" And he's still kind of holding out and said, "I really need to look at your arm." And of course, his mother is saying, "Leave him alone. What are you doing?" And he goes, "No, that's fine." So he rolls up the sleeve, and of course, there's the metal under the skin, and he immediately grabs Mac by the throat. And of course, then the mother starts grappling with Yo-Yo and May. So in the fight, Mac asks his dad, "So where are my parents?" Said, "Well, they've been gone a while." Said, "We harvested their skin. And we were going to have a good time with you." And of course, that charges Mac up, and he starts fighting a little harder, and then Daisy gets a hold of him and snaps his neck. Which is, when we first saw that, like I said,
who did?
Excuse me, not Daisy, I'm sorry. Yo-Yo snapped his neck. Thank you. But again, when I first saw that, I keep forgetting that Yo-Yo still has the robotic arms. They just look like regular arms now. So when she did that, I'm thinking, man, that seemed awful easy for you, considering you just had regular hands. But of course,
that didn't have nothing to do with her speed.
No, but it does have to do with her strength.
For sure. But I mean, I'm just saying.
But like I said, because she has normal arms, I forgot that she still had the robotic arms. Anyway, so she took him out. In the meantime, May jumps in the pilot seat. Yo-Yo opens up the hatch. Mm-hmm. She puts the plane in a climb, and the dad slides out the hatch. Right. So then Mac grabs a hold of his mom. Right. And is forcing her to the hatch, and she's starting to now sitting there telling him, "Don't do this, Mac. Don't do this, Alfie," which is what. And of course, he shoves her out of the plane. Right. So now that that's been done, now this is, like I said, we talked before, this has hit Mac relatively hard. Right. So they get back onto the Zephyr, and Daisy and Sousa have gotten back to the Zephyr. Daisy's in the same healing chamber that May was.
Right.
And Sousa's sitting there, and they're getting ready to jump again.
Right. And they give him a chance.
Yeah. So
want to get off.
and Jim, because he had expressed a feeling that he was done doing all this time jumping.
Right.
So Jim asked him, "Okay, so we're getting ready to jump. This is your last chance. You want to get off?" And said, "No, this is where I need to be." So they make the jump, which was in 1982. Once they arrive in 1982, Mac decides he needs to get some air, so jumps on his motorcycle, grabs his leather jacket because you can't be riding motorcycles without your cool leather jacket,
Well,
and rides out. He rides off, like you said, maybe a football field length away from the Zephyr. So Deke's going to go out there and talk to him because he knows a little something about losing his parents and everything. So he's going to go out to talk to him, and right before he even gets there, Jimmy gets on the radio to Deke and says, "There's something wrong. The ship's getting ready to jump again. You need to get back."
Right.
And Deke's sitting there telling Mac, "Hey, there's something wrong with the Zephyr. We need to go." And just oblivion, doesn't pay any attention to it. And the ship disappeared.
Which wouldn't mattered anyway, one way or
I don't think he would have
never got back.
No, they would never got
even
back.
Even if he'd have turned around.
But in this case, he didn't even turn around.
Right.
So the ship disappears. So Deke and Mac are now stuck in 1982. Right. And as I said in my article, they probably are going to see my high school graduation. That's important. They probably need to go there. It's a natural historical event.
You really shouldn't tell everybody how old you are.
I've made it quite clear. There's no mystery. The gray hair alone should be enough to should tell you that. So that was pretty much
perfectly fine. I have no gray hair whatsoever. Go ahead.
So as far as performers of the show for this week, because that was the end of the episode.
Right.
I gave it to Henry Simmons as Mac because Mac, and as I thought about it,
he goes through a lot of crap.
Right, and he's went through a lot of crap throughout the time he's been on the show. I mean, he's been possessed by an alien. Mm-hmm. He's been possessed by the Ghost Rider.
Right.
He's had issues with his brother. He's lost his daughter twice. He lost her the first time, and then lost her in the framework, and lost her again. He's been on and off with Elena a couple times.
Right.
He's not had of course, I think he's quit S.H.I.E.L.D. at least 2 or 3 times. Keeps saying, "I really mean it this time.
And I'm not
quitting."
coming back.
But I thought that Henry Simmons did a great job as Mac in this episode.
Yep.
I gave him a chance to. Of course, he's had a number of episodes where he's had a chance to show his emotions. And of course, there's not a person on that show that can't, put it out there when they need to emotionally.
I really do love. I was telling Martin as we were rewatching the episode again today. I said, I am so invested in these characters, and I totally feel for their anguish and their just all of their emotions. I feel for them because this has become so, I hate to say this because I know it's a show, but it's really kind of real in my mind, which is why I want to know where Fitz is. And all these things, it's a very well told story. It's a shame that more people don't watch this. I really think this is something that this is Game of Thrones audience worthy. It really is.
And I told her at the time, and it's true, that if after 7 seasons, if you're not emotionally invested in them, then it's really not a good show. You wouldn't have watched it as long as you have.
True.
And of course, I think that was their initial problem to the first couple of episodes in season 1, is you didn't have an emotional investment in these people. But you gained it really quick.
Yeah, and I think that the problem, or why people didn't follow, is I think they were trying, in their minds, they were feeling like that the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Television or whatever should have merged here, and by keeping it separate, I think it made the stories worth telling by just giving a nod to some of the things that were happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it helped this, and also, you had Kobe Smulders and some of those other people that were a part of that other
part of the cinematic universe
kind of dip in here and there. Those were very good segues. And like I said, and after I watched that first episode again, I think as many times as I've watched that first episode, I have glazed over that part, knowing why he was there and that something had happened, and actually listening to the dialogue intently, uh, that I did this last time when we watched the whole series again, I found that and I've said in the past I didn't think that they segued it very well, but now that I've seen it again for the fourth time, I hate to say, but I really do think they did segue it very well, and not so. I take back what I said.
Well, and I think, as you said, I think they tied it in originally to different parts of it. I think they gave themselves a little more creative freedom by not being hamstrung.
It made it so that the stories could kind of blossom instead of being shoved back into another hole,
right?
Or all those people disappearing when Thanos snapped his fingers, or anything like that would have happened that could have created a ripple in their storytelling, which I really think that was it was a great way for them to go, and it has made it more enjoyable as a whole story, a full and total story that has, like I said, those nods to those other things, because they are part of that.
And even now, they're still making those nods, with Daniel Sousa and different things.
Which those things I feel like are really good tie-ins that don't hamstring them to a certain thing.
Right, and of course, this since being the last season, now the hamstrings are the strings are cut.
Knock it off.
But getting back to performances, like I said, I also gave an honorable mention to Elizabeth Hemstridge's Gemma.
I love Gemma. Gemma is Gemma and Fifth, of course, are probably my favorite characters, just because of their dynamic. You know what? There's just not one character in there that I just don't love. I love them all. I am sad when they are sad, and I swear they look like they're really sad when they're sad.
Well, so, and of course that's what we have said before, especially when Gemma or Ian Fitz, when they cry, they don't do these little baby tears. They do the full alligator.
They're all in it. Yeah, they're in it, and it's very
actually
real.
Same thing with Henry Simmons. So when he do it, he does it. Now I've admitted in the past that sometimes Mac's character sometimes it got on my nerves because I thought he was a little holier than thou.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what makes Mac.
Exactly, because he's got his.
And it's also explains why
we many times say that he's leave me alone, but go be alone with my own principles.
Right. And of course, that's probably what makes him a good leader, as far as again, even with compass. And you might question the fact that he sacrificed the chance of blowing up the light, flooding the lighthouse for his parents. His thinking is we're here to save lives, not take them.
Right.
So in that sense, it makes sense. Okay, so where we are now, of course, we said Mac and Deke are in 1982.
Correct.
And apparently we're still going to have the robots involved, which I said should be right up Mac's alley, because
it looked like number 5 is alive.
It's what it kind of looked like, because we all know that Mac hates robots, so he likes hunting down robots.
Right.
So, did you notice though when Deke thing looked like he was wearing a little eyeliner?
Well, that's because it's 1980.
Yeah,
he was doing a little Flock of Seagulls. Or not Flock of Seagulls, more like Adamant or one of those guys.
Right. I said so.
But anyway, all 80s stuff.
And of course, apparently they go back to the lighthouse, and Deke's got it all with the hot tub.
Yeah.
So that's
hot tub time machine.
Yeah.
Woo! What an odd!
So we still have questions, of course. May, she's expressing some feelings. Will she get back to her normal things? But like I said, that empathy thing has really worked out for them as far as detecting Chronicom.
Yep.
Yo-Yo, she still hasn't got her speed back.
That we know. Yeah.
I'm assuming that Daisy's going to get her powers back, though. She couldn't use them when she was all.
Well, she probably just needs some rest. I'm guessing. I hope.
So, and of course, Coulson
no fun if any of them don't have any powers.
Right.
That's just
speaking
fun of it.
Yeah, speaking of the power thing, and we mentioned this briefly, and I kind of thought it was interesting. As Yo-Yo and Daisy have been pretty much the team's strongest agents
Mhm.
because of their powers.
Right.
So when Yo-Yo, who can't access her, I don't think she lost him, she just can't seem to access him. So when Max said that he can't be out without his strongest agent, Yo-Yo kind of looked at him like,
I hate you.
right,
I'm
still good, just because I can't go fast. And I may have read more into that. That's just kind of
well, it was kind of the look she gave him.
right. So anyway, so that's episode 6, Adapt or Die, and the next episode is the totally excellent adventures of Mac and the D.
Anyway.
So until that episode 7, we said we're past the halfway point. This is Martin.
And I'm Kathy.
We'll catch you again on another episode of Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge.
Bye.
It's been our pleasure to present to you GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. We'll see you next time.